Good morning all. Today's topic of discussion is PLD architecture and applications part 4. The objective of this lecture is to make the students familiarize with architectural details of FPGA. So what is FPGA? That is field programmable gate arrays, and they are so called because they are structured very much like the gate array form of the application specific integrated circuit. In fact, FPGAs essentially killed the gate array ASIC business. In the not so distant past, FPGAs were marketed for primarily two uses. First, for prototyping ASIC, and second, for use in system to achieve time to market, knowing that they would be replaced with the ASIC implementation at the earliest opportunity. Each FPGA vendor has its own FPGA architecture and they uses the different technologies. So we will see which are the different FPGA technologies. It may be SRAM based FPGA fabric. It is used by the vendors Xilinx and Altera. It may be anti-fuse based FPGA fabric used by Actel, and flash based FPGAs which is used by Actel again. So there are different FPGA families available in the market. For example, the SRAM based FPGA families include the following: Altera Flex family, Atmel 86000 and 8040K families, Lucent Technologies, Xilinx Technology. The examples of anti-fuse based FPGA families include Actel and QuickLogic. So which are the different FPGA families? So old families are XE3000, XE4000, XE5200. So they use the 0.5 micrometer, 0.35 micrometer and 0.25 micrometer technology, and they are not recommended for the modern design. Next comes the low cost family, that is a Spartan family. It is derived from XE4000. The Spartan 2 is derived from Vertex. Spartan 2E is derived from Vertex E, and Spartan 3, Spartan 3E and Spartan 3L, they are also available. These are low cost high performance families. And there are some high performance families like Vertex. So we have Vertex 220 nanometer, Vertex E and EM 180 nanometer, Vertex 2, Vertex Pro, that is 130 nanometer, Vertex 4 90 nanometer, Vertex 5 65 nanometer, and we have Vertex 7 also now available. So which are the different types of FPGA architecture? So each FPGA vendor has its own FPGA architecture, but in general terms, they are all a variation of the architecture which consists of configurable logic block, configurable IO block, and the programmable interconnect. The FPGA is a SRAM based volatile structure, and it can be configured by making power off and use of EEPROM. Hence, it is called as field programmable. So this programmable SRAM based technology is used by the vendors like Xilinx, Altera, Lattice, Atmel. And this is the structure of the logic cell. It consists of lookup table and flip-flops. The SRAM determines the interconnect and the SRAM defines the logic in a lookup table format. The another technology is one-time programmable, that is OTP. It is used by the vendors Actel and QuickLogic. It consists of logic gates and flip-flops. The interconnect is anti-fuse and the logic is implemented using the traditional gates. As the name suggests, it is one-time programmable, means we can program it only once. If the logic is to be changed, then that particular chip will not be of any use afterwards. In case of SRAM based technology, at any point of time, if you want to change the design, we can reconfigure the design as it is based on the SRAM technology. So these SRAM based FPGAs are mostly used FPGAs. Like the Xilinx devices are all SRAM based. We have this XE2S200 device. So mostly in our lab sessions also we will be using this XE2S200. So program logic function interconnects using SRAM. The advantages of this FPGAs, it is reprogrammable, it is dynamically reconfigurable, and uses the standard processes. There are some disadvantages also, like SRAM burns the power and possible to still disrupt configuration bits. So this is the in general FPGA architecture. So as I told you, the different vendors have the different designs or different architectures, but in general the architecture contains the main blocks such as the logic block, the IO block, and the interconnect matrix. So FPGA is concept of sea of gates. So there are lakhs of gates accommodated on the chip. It uses either SRAM, antifuse or flash based architecture, and the building blocks are CLB, IOB and the programmable interconnect matrix. Also there will be a clock security for driving the clock signal to each logic block. Additional logic resources such as ALU, memory and decoders may also be available. And the three basic type of programmable elements for the FPGA are static RAM, antifuse and the flash RAM, EEPROM. Just now we have discussed about that. Now one by one we will see the details of each and every block. So before that we will see the standardized architecture of this Spartan 2 family. So in this Spartan 2 family, along with the three important blocks, that is the CLBs, configurable logic blocks, then the IO block and the interconnect matrix, we have few additional blocks such as the block RAM is available. Then we have the IO logic blocks, as well as we have the DLL. So as the whole logic will be implemented with the help of CLBs, we'll see the details of the CLB. So one by one we'll see the function of each block. So it consists of a configurable logic block in which the logic will be implemented in the form of a lookup table, that is the short form is LUT. A circuit that implements a combinational logic function by storing a list of output values that correspond to the all possible input combinations. It is called as the LUT, that is lookup table. Then CLB, so this is another important term related to FPGA, that is a configurable logic block, is the name for programmable logic block in a FPGA. Then we have another important term LE, that is the logic element, a circuit internal to a FPGA used to implement the logic function as a lookup table is called as LE. Then another important term is the cascade chain, a circuit in a FPGA that allows the input width of a Boolean function to expand beyond the width of one logic element. So we can connect multiple blocks in a cascade chain to increase the size of logic to be implemented. The next important term is carry chain, a circuit in a FPGA that is optimized for efficient operation of carry functions between the logic elements. DCM, that is the digital clock manager, is a very important circuit that offers various clock management functions in FPGA. And then the clock trees, distribution of clock signal line along the FPGA architecture. So how the FPGA is configured. The configuration of FPGA is an important process. So whatever design you want to implement with the help of FPGA, that is to be configured in the chip. So as we have just now seen that it is a reprogrammable device, and with the help of this configuration data input, we can input serially the logic that is to be implemented or that is to be mapped with the hardware resources of the FPGA. So the configuration data will be inputted and then the data will run through the chip. So all the logic blocks are connected in a chain fashion, and one by one the configuration of these blocks will be done. The stream of ones and zeros that will run through these blocks and it will configure these blocks. So all these blocks are connected in a serial fashion, and then so through the IO pin we can configure the data, that is data input, and then we can also have the configuration data out. The cells which are highlighted with red color all are SRAM cell, and the logic will be implemented in the form of a lookup table. So for a particular logic expression corresponding to the respective input condition, what will be the output? So that data will be stored in the form of a lookup table, and then whenever that set of input will appear on the IO pin, the processor will take the data of that particular input condition and it will output it. That is the type of implementation table which is there in the FPGA. Now again, further details of this configuration. What do you mean by this configuration? So this is the diagram which shows the unconfigured FPGA. In this unconfigured FPGA, we can see that the RAM, the data which is available with unutilized RAM, that is data. You can just see it over here, and the hardware resources, they are also not properly utilized, or we can say not properly configured. They are not interconnected also. So randomly these hardware resources are available, and now we have to configure this. So in the last slide we have just seen through this IO pin and the internal chain of SRAM cell we can configure the device. So whenever the bit file will be sent to the device gets configured, and after configuration it appears like this. So configuration data stream, which is the stream of zeros and ones, with the help of which the RAM cells are loaded, and then accordingly the hardware will be configured. So the hardware resources will be configured and interconnected, so that for the required output, if the input is provided, we will get the required output with the help of the chip. Now in this chip there is one more facility available, that is called as a JTAG, that is Joint Test Access Group. They have formed one IEEE standard, and according to that standard we can have the in-circuit programming of the device through the standard, as well as we can also have the boundary scanning of the chip. So in this particular diagram you can see the boundary scanning chain of the IO pins of the FPGA. So all these are the IO pins, which are one block corresponds to one pin of the chip. So for each and every pin there is one IO block inside, and these IO blocks are interconnected in a chain fashion. So through this JTAG also we can send the data serially. So one by one the blocks will be, as they are interconnected, the data from one block or one IO block will be sent to the next IO block, and like this the data will run through the all IO blocks or the blocks which are connected to the IO pins in a serial fashion, and then finally the data which is there, that is available at the JTAG out. So we can check the functionality of the boundary cells of this JTAG, this particular FPGA, with the help of this JTAG. This JTAG can also be used for the configuration of the device. So whatever configuration mechanism we have just now seen in the last slide, that is done through this JTAG. So we have the primary scan chain as well as the internal scan chain, that is the core. So core logic will be defined with the help of the internal core scan chain. So we have studied the different blocks of this Xilinx FPGA. So main blocks are configurable logic blocks, so which are shown with the blue color. Then we have the IO blocks. Just now we have seen the chain of these IO blocks. We have the block RAMs, and all these configurable logic blocks, they are interconnected with the help of a interconnect matrix. So one by one we will see the more details of these blocks. So first we will go for this configurable logic block. So this one block, we can see it over here, that is the CLB, that is the configurable logic block. And if you will see the inside details of this block, we can see it like this. This configurable logic block consists of the number of slices. There are 4 such slices in one CLB, and one slice contains the 2 logic cells. So the details of this logic cell and the logic block we'll see further. So what is this CLB? These blocks contain one logic for the logic for the FPGA. In the large grain architecture used by all FPGA vendors, these CLB contain enough logic to create a small state machine. So with the help of one CLB we can create one state machine, and the block contains RAM for creating the arbitrary combinatorial logic function, also known as the lookup table. It also contains the flip-flops for the clocked storage elements. So these logic cells also contains the flip-flops, along with multiplexers in order to route the logic within the block and to and from the external resources. The multiplexers also allow the polarity selection and reset and clear input selection. So we'll see the details of this logic cell. So in one logic cell you can see there are different blocks like the 4 input lookup table, 16:1 RAM, and the 16-bit shift register, one multiplexer and one flip-flop. So this is the core building block of the FPGA, which is called as the logic cell. So one slice contains 2 logic cells, and each logic cells contain the lookup table, multiplexer, register, and the slice has one set of clock enable, and set reset signal common to both logic cells. So this is the complete picture of one CLB. So this CLB is having the 4 slices. Each slice is having the 2 logic cell. So Xilinx FPGAs can have 2 or 4 slices in each CLB, and there is also some fast programmable interconnect within this CLB. This interconnect is used to connect the neighboring slices. So in between these slices also we have the programmable interconnect. So this is the detailed circuit diagram of the CLB. So any function of up to 4 variable plus any second function of up to 4 unrelated variable plus any third function of up to 3 unrelated variables can be implemented using one CLB. So you can see there are lookup tables which are available over here. In the first lookup table we can have the 4 variable implementation. The variables are G1, G2, G3, G4. So any 4 variable implementation can be done with the help of one lookup table. This is another lookup table which can implement another second function which is having the variables F1, F2, F3, F4, and then it can be combined with the help of another lookup table. So there is possibility that we can have any single function of 5 variables. So 4 variable we can implement separately, or we can have the combination of these two along with the one multiplexer, and then we can have the implementation of 5 variable. Any function of 4 variable together with some function of 6 variable is also possible with the help of the multiplexer arrangements. So these lookup tables are nothing but the SRAM in which the logic to be implemented is the lookup table for that, or we can say the truth table for that particular circuit is stored. So again the same configurable IO block in more details are shown over here. A configurable input output block is used to bring the signal into the chip and send them back off again. So this is the real interface between the outside world and the chip. It consists of an input buffer and an output buffer. So we can see the two buffers are there. So this is the IO pad which is shown with a green color. So from this from this IO pad the signal is coming. So we can configure this particular pad as a either input pad or a output pad. So if it is acting like an input pad, then this particular input buffer will come into picture. If it is configured as output, then this output buffer will come into picture. These buffers are 3-state or open collector output controls are there, and typically there are pull-up resistor on the output and sometimes the pull-down resistor that can be used to terminate the signal and buses without requiring the discrete resistor external to the chip. That is also available. The polarity of output can be programmed for active high or active low output, and then the slew rate of the output can be programmed for fast or slow rise and fall times. There are typically flip-flops on the outputs so that the clocked signal can be output directly to the pins without encountering the significant delay. More easily meeting the setup time requirement for external devices. Similarly, the flip-flops on the input reduce the delay on the signal before reaching a flip-flop and thus reducing the hold time required of the FPGA. So accordingly the IO block will be utilized. So just you can see the arrow direction. So this is the if the pin is configured as input, then this portion will be coming into picture, this downward portion, and if it is configured as output, then this upper portion will be coming into picture. Now the next important part is the programmable interconnect. So there are long lines in this particular diagram that you can see. These can be used to connect the critical CLBs that are physically far from each other on the chip without introducing much delay. And these long lines can also be used as buses within the chip. There are also short lines that are used to connect the individual CLBs. And these are also several programmable switch matrices in the are used in the FPGA. The transistors are used to turn on or off the connections between the different lines. These three-state buffers are used to connect many CLBs to a long line, creating a bus, and the special long lines called the global clock lines are specially designed for low impedance and thus fast propagation times. And these are connected to the clock buffers and to each clocked element in each CLB. So this is how the clocks are distributed throughout the FPGA, ensuring minimum slew between the clock signals arriving at different flip-flops within a chip. So in an ASIC, the majority of the delay come from the logic in the design, and because logic is connected with the metal lines, this exhibit little delay in ASIC. In an FPGA, however, most of the delay in the chip comes from the interconnect, because the interconnect like a logic is fixed on the chip. In order to connect one CLB to the other CLB in a different part of the chip often require a connection through many transistors and the switch matrices, each of which introduces the extra delay. So the logic which is implemented in CLB, that is fast, but due to interconnects the delays will be added. Now about the clock which is provided, the special IO blocks with the special high drive clock buffer known as the clock drivers are distributed around the chip, and these buffers connect to the clock input pad and drive the clock signals onto the global clock lines. So these clock lines are designed for low skew time and the fast propagation times. So in these programmable interconnects, we can see the routing is possible with the help of a switch box, or in between the configurable blocks which are near to each other, directly we can have the interconnection, or if they are far away, then through the switch box we can have the interconnection. So this particular circuit is showing more detail. So at every crossing of these lines which are used for interconnection between the different configurable logic block, we can see the cross over here. The details of this cross is shown here. So this cross is nothing but one MOS switch which is controlled by the configuration bit which is coming through the serial port of the JTAG. So that will configure each MOS. So this MOS is nothing but the interconnection. So we can make this connection on or off by just controlling this MOS switch. Thank you.